Hello, my name is Crystal Meach. Welcome to the deeper meaning of Eat, Pray, Love, and Discovery of Self. The content created herein is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This content is not meant to replace any medical, legal, or financial advice. All information is copyrighted and subject to copyright law. Tao of the Heart YouTube channel. This channel was created to help people open their heart and realize their truth. I'm presenting knowledge in ways that are intelligible and usable for those who wish to receive it. Webinars are available for purchase on Vimeo, and content of various media is available for free on YouTube. Today we'll be discussing the film, authors and director, book versus movie, 3 films to watch together: Eat, Pray, Love, American Beauty, and Pretty Woman, the scope of this analysis, the deeper meaning and discovery of self, scene by scene, and conclusion. Eat, Pray, Love was created in 2006 by Elizabeth Gilbert. The film was created in 2010, and it was co-wrote with Ryan Murphy. It's considered an American biographical romantic drama. The film grossed about $204 million on a $60 million budget. It received mostly negative reviews in the press, but Oprah was a huge fan. Elizabeth Gilbert was born in 1969 in Connecticut. She grew up on a Christmas tree farm. She had little social interaction outside of playing with her sister, and she had access to books. Ernest Hemingway was an influence. Her father was a chemical engineer. Her mother was a nurse. She became a freelance journalist, and at the time that she wrote Eat, Pray, Love in 2006, she traveled on a $200,000 publisher's advance. She's named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine. Film director Ryan Murphy was born in 1965 in Indianapolis, Indiana. He's a writer, director, and producer of TV series. He wrote and directed popular Nip Tuck, Glee, American Horror Story, Pose, 911, The Politician, Eat, Pray, Love, The Normal Heart, and Prom, and many others. He's received 6 Primetime Emmys, a Tony Award, and 2 Grammy nominations. In the book versus the film, in all movies based on books, there's often a deviation between storylines and details left out or added. There are often timing differences between when a book is created compared to the film. Due to this, one may receive a totally different perspective of a film made based on a book. Films are heavily coded with information about proclivities within culture, time created, and families and relationships. Watch these 3 films back to back: Eat, Pray, Love, American Beauty, and Pretty Woman. This is a study of men and women within relationships, the feminist movement within culture, and masculine and feminine energies. More can be gleaned from Alison Armstrong's books, Queen's Code, and Keys to the Kingdom. Each of these films will be discussed in separate episodes on this channel. This exploration of perspective is limited to providing an expansion of one's own heart and mind. The purpose is helping the consumer of this information realize his or her own power, which is expressed through the heart. We live in a world that focuses on conceptual understanding. Intuitive feeling and knowing is not valued. Your capacity to be vulnerable is your greatest gift as a human, and it's the difference between a human and a robot. Both can easily be programmed, but only one has a heart. By wearing an armor of protection, your ego has been trained. The exploration of vulnerability has been lost within this culture and the time this analysis was created. The loss of feeling and ability to be vulnerable makes society easily controllable. The videos provided by this channel are meant to highlight the value of all the feelings within the heart and the power that lies dormant within. On the surface, Eat, Pray, Love may look like a modern day Disney princess fairy tale. An entitled American woman nuked her life, she divorced her husband, traveled the world, and found love. Maybe you're a single parent, but you couldn't imagine leaving your children to travel, much less afford to do so. It's kind of hard to relate to this story. Maybe you're in a relationship, career, or life that resonates with the analogy of the experience being a storm-swept sea. In this film, it may look like a long travel channel commercial that's selling finding yourself while encompassed in beauty and lush landscapes. That's all on the surface. Under the surface, the discovery of the self is available for the bargain price of watching the film and not leaving your living room. The film is a potential template to look within. This is a tool. You can create a space and time to explore the details of this film. Your investment is your time, your mind, and your heart. It is suggested that you watch the film, then watch this episode, then watch Eat, Pray, Love again. You will start to relate details identified here within your own journey. As you come to that awareness, you will start to identify how you are living your life from the past, the present, and the future. Now you will have a new choice in each moment that you live your life. The whole point is that you understand your choices, as this leads you back to your power. Starting with scene 1, wounds are often disguised by the by the results experienced within relationships. So the film opens discussing Deborah, the psychologist, and how she has no idea how to relate to the suffering of Cambodian refugees. And what this is really getting at and setting the scene for is that whatever deeper wound or trauma under the surface that you're faced with, the results you are experiencing in your relationships may reflect the healing needed within. 3 core wounds that are emphasized throughout this film are: rejection is an effect caused by abandonment. Sabotage is an effect caused by lack of worthiness. Control is an effect caused by lack of trust. See your reality through your heart. This is the way to be conscious of the results manifested in your life. Liz goes to a medicine man named Katut to talk about relationships. He gives her a drawing and says this: keep grounded so it's like you have 4 legs. That way you can stay in this world. Also, no looking at the world through your head. Look through your heart instead. That way you will know God, which is why you came here, no? Upon looking through your heart, you may notice that your energy is invested in things and relationships outside the self. So the scene opens with Liz's book launch party in New York. Her husband, Stephen, vacillates between being a vintage car dealer, a pastry chef, and going back to school for his master's. Liz vacillates between creating a great house, traveling, a successful career, and her marriage. Her friend says to her, Liz, having a baby is like getting a tattoo on your face. You kind of want to be committed. Later that evening, before telling Stephen she wants a divorce, she thinks the only thing more impossible than staying was leaving. These are all clues, though at the time, Liz may not have been able to pinpoint why she wasn't happy. You may feel that the cause of your problem is a relationship. By jumping into the next relationship, the cycle repeats. The actress in The Permeable Membrane play says this: I give you all this and more until I'm so exhausted and depleted. The only way I can recover is by being infatuated with someone else. Until the wound within is healed, there may be a pattern or cycle of doing or being. For example, one may feel the relationship is the problem, so one may cycle through relationships. This can also manifest as a prism of patterns in one's life, in relationships, careers, hobbies, addictions of all kinds. Rejection and sabotage are signs that one is seeking validation and worth outside the self. Stephen's worth is outside of himself, which is why he vacillates between dreams of trying various careers and choosing his marriage to Liz. He's reflecting back to Liz her worth outside of the self. She files for divorce because she married Stephen on the basis of the relationship making her happy, a feeling that can only be found from within. A second wound is abandonment. Liz is rejecting this relationship because she has abandoned herself over and over. One may realize that they accepted society's or family's conditioning for validation and worth. Oftentimes, we may wake up to the idea that well-meaning family, friends, teachers, etc., conditioned us one way. We accepted those conditions without the conscious awareness of such effects. This resulted in investment in careers, relationships, hobbies based on beliefs outside the self, seeking validation outside the self. Notable clues from the scene. Delia's husband says, you used to look like Stephen. Now you kind of look like David. The chanting and meditations are the same thing in a different costume. A pattern of choices repeats until there's a breaking point or conscious awareness of the pattern. Liz has destroyed her marriage and jumped into a new relationship. This is the cycle that she's trying to break. Oftentimes, family and friends either can't relate to this or have no way to support what can only be found from within. The latest solution to Liz's problems is to travel the world. And Delia asks her, what if it doesn't work? One of the first ways to start reconnecting to your heart and validating yourself from within is to choose yourself, no matter how small. One of the conditions of Liz renting the apartment in Italy is that she can't bring sausage there every night. This is the first step Liz is taking to choose herself over a relationship. Liz is in a completely new environment. Her support group is not there to validate her experience. It may seem selfish at first to choose yourself, but the more you choose based on what you want, the more you feel into your heart. Liz is seen wandering Italy, eating, walking around, enjoying scenery, meeting people, and learning a new language. She's learning to do only the things she wants to do. What is the power in that? The power is that by doing from her heart, this will have a ripple effect in her outside world. A sense of guilt can arise from choosing the self, almost like it must be earned, validated, or deserved. In Italian, dolce far niente means the sweetness of doing nothing. Do you have to deserve being? Deserving is based on a condition. Do you have to earn pleasure? Earning is based on a past condition. Is there worth in just being? Yes, there is. It serves the purpose of validating the self from within rather than from an external source. Upon looking within, we may come to the realization that every picture in our mind, every word that we think, and every word we speak holds great power. The language we use with ourselves and others has meaning. Oftentimes, we may have one intention, but our words convey a different meaning or message. This shows up 3 times in this film. When Liz locks herself in the bathroom with an Italian dictionary, she's searching for meaning literally and within. In this scene, her friends ask her what her word is. Sophie says Liz may be in search of her word. In the final scene, Liz determines her word is attraversiamo, which means let's cross over. Guilt is an effect that is caused from seeking validation outside the self. Sophie gained 10 pounds and now doesn't want to eat pizza. Liz asks Sophie, when you've been dressed in front of a man, has he ever asked you to leave? No, because he's in a room with a naked woman. He's won the lottery. When we are trained to seek validation outside of the self, it easily becomes a pattern or cycle of never meeting a target. This leaves us in a continual state of guilt, never winning. The retraining is seeking validation within for fulfillment and redefining winning. We often fear letting go of something because there is a greater value or security placed in the known compared to the unknown. A good analogy is a rubber band. One can pull a rubber band only so far until it snaps back. That interval is similar in that we can only go so far as the safety net within our ego. The ego is your friend. It is trying to protect you and serve you based on your experiences of the past. The more you work with your ego and understand the reason it protects you, the easier it is to let go of what is known and trust. As you start to live from your heart, you evoke the power of vulnerability. Vulnerability is our greatest gift as humans, and it's a lost power within our society. As you start to identify with your heart, you may realize that you have shut down your feelings for so long, you may not even know you had them. There are all different feelings within the heart, and all have value. The more you create a space to be vulnerable with yourself, the easier it is to be vulnerable with others. When one first starts the process of meditating on a regular basis, it may be hard to silence the mind in order to hear the heart. Meditation is a tool. It must be honed to be your servant. In the silence, one starts to observe their thoughts. As the thoughts run their course, slowly the mind runs out of thoughts. This is the space to dwell where clarity is received. Once the mind is silenced, one starts to realize all the feelings within the heart. Then one starts to understand all things from a different perspective. This unbinds the training from culture, family, and this time period that we reside in. Once one will realize the straitjacket that he or she was trained to live in, always seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. This keeps one bound to their suffering, to the repeating cycles of rejection, control, and sabotage. Pain becomes a teacher. One starts to see through and value all the feelings within the heart. The heart expresses through feelings. The more you trust, the more you are able to let go of the need for control. Then the exercise becomes, what can I control and what can I not control? Your greatest power resides in your response. Often things happen in our world that we cannot control. However, we can control our reaction and response to what happens. Your power and security lies within. The more you practice this, the easier it is to stay in your power. Soon you will find the root of the feelings that reside within the heart. It may be a past event or trauma that remains unhealed. Liz goes to Tulsi's wedding and she has flashbacks of her wedding to Stephen. This brings up a plethora of feelings such as pain and judgment. She wants forgiveness from Stephen for ruining their marriage. She admits to Richard that no one forced her into a marriage. She planned it all herself. She has guilt and judgment for her choices. One cannot control forgiveness from another. However, one can control forgiveness from the self. Forgiveness is not the same as pardoning or letting someone off the hook. Richard tells Liz about how his actions resulted in not being able to watch his son grow up. He suffers from a fair amount of guilt, resentment, judgment, and shame. There is a state of being in the vessel that we occupy and a living soul that occupies that vessel. Forgiveness lies in seeing the living soul in the state you want possessed. This is moving beyond the duality and suffering experienced. Through the process of forgiveness, one reconstructs the perception within their mind to the perception desired. To live a life outside of the self is to live a life in denial. If someone or something else is the cause, one is disassociated within their mind. This is a form of denying healing and staying bound to suffering or experiencing duality. Liz heals by feeling and releasing the previous story about her relationship to Stephen. She accepts all her feelings that she held within her heart. God dwells within you as you. God is absolute in all things, having an experience through the vessel that your living soul occupies. In whatever state of conscious awareness that you occupy, that places a limit on your perception of your reality. Liz is met with the rogue Carnival Elephant. This is symbolic of conscious mind, heart, and God as one, a state of totality or non-duality, a state of pure, limitless love. You lose balance, you lose power. Ketut provides Liz with another set of instructions. In order to stay happy, you must always know where you are every moment. Right here is perfect balance, right at the meeting of heaven and earth. Not too much God, not too much selfish. Otherwise, life too crazy. You lose balance, you lose power. In morning, you do meditation from India. During the day, enjoy Bali. Then in the afternoon, come see me. End of day, you do new meditation. Very simple. Sit in silence and smile. Smile with face, mind, and heart. Smile even with liver. Oftentimes, when something happens that seems out of our control, we don't realize our choice to react or respond. In the case of an accident or chaotic event, one often forgets or is unaware of their power in that moment. The one power that can never be taken away from us is our choice and our response to what is happening. The realization of power is in understanding what can be controlled and what cannot be controlled. Hindsight may show us a pattern or repeating cycle. If we recognize the pattern, we see through the lesson and how it's showing up to serve us. Now we have a choice in our response. Ian tells Liz that everyone has a love affair in Bali. Liz sees through this. She's already had her love affairs with Stephen and David. To take up Ian's offer is to continue that pattern. She is choosing herself in this case, even while inebriated. After being tested for making a new choice, new opportunities arise. Felipe sees Liz choose not to have a love affair with Ian. Her choice shows she recognizes her power in her response. Liz has done internal work within herself. The realizations she made resulted in a change in her choices. Now she is experiencing new opportunities as a result of that change. She is attracting a different type of partner and a different experience externally. After having gone through trauma and pain, it can be hard to trust in love again. There is trusting that you can heal from the pain, and then there is trusting that you have moved on from the past. As a new relationship unfolds, one is tested as to whether the healing has commenced and whether one has chosen to move on. As one learns to trust and love again, there is a new discovery of self. Being open and trusting love allows one to experience it with another. This is actually easier than we make it out to be. However, the real exercise is in understanding if you are operating from your mind or truly within your heart. There is not logic to feelings. Feelings are not thought, they are felt. One of the challenges of experiencing love again is fear of losing the self by partaking in the relationship. Notice how fear and love are opposites. Notice how Wayan plants the seed of fear of losing balance and power of the self. She shares her story of love that ended in divorce. This is a trigger for Liz, who also experienced loss from a divorce. This reiterates the choices one has in each moment. fear, or love. Your choice determines your experience and your response. You learn from both. When one is vulnerable with another, one often wants it reflected back to them. Liz fears losing herself in this relationship, that she is abandoning herself. She is validating the love of herself by having balance. When there are conditions, expectations, earning, and or validation, that is not love. Felipe fears rejection by Liz. He's trying to control how love is reflected back to him, placing a condition on love. He doesn't trust that love is here. Wisdom from Katut. Sometimes to lose balance for love is part of living a balanced life. True healing of our core wounds is to experience love. The experiences that one goes through in finding love allows one to see, understand, and know the difference between duality and non-duality. At the end of the movie, Liz Gilbert's quote, "Physics of the quest." She says, "I've come to believe that there exists in the universe something I call the physics of the quest, a force of nature governed by laws as real as the law of gravity or momentum. And the rule of quest physics maybe goes something like this. If you are brave enough to leave behind everything familiar and comforting, which can be anything from your house to your bitter old resentments, and set out on a truth-seeking journey, either externally or internally, and if you are truly willing to regard everything that happens to you on that journey as a clue, and if you accept everyone you meet along the way as a teacher, and if you are prepared, most of all, to face and forgive some very difficult realities about yourself, then the truth will not be withheld from you, or so I've come to believe." Love transcends every experience on your journey. The one freedom that no one or no thing can take away from you is your response. This is always a choice and your greatest power. Concluding, there are infinite ways that our core wounds show us our limitations. Ultimately, these wounds serve a purpose, and that is to heal. Through our experience, we find all different ways to place a condition on, earn, or validate love. Love transcends. It is not conditional. It is not based on the past, and it doesn't require validation. Our highest power is our ability to feel all the feelings within the heart. Within that vulnerability lies our greatest strength. We may not be able to control what happens externally, but we have a choice in our response. After watching this episode, go back and watch Eat, Pray, Love. Do you see it differently? Thank you again for watching. I hope you check out my other episodes. Bye for now.